Hey there, and welcome to this week's featured video, Why Most Functional Lab Tests Are BS and What to Do Instead. I'm Jennifer Ellis Schutz, former complex chronic illness warrior that turned into a thriver by becoming my own best self-healer. And then I ultimately decided to turn my pain into purpose by transforming into a functional health practitioner, transformational coach, and now founder of Wellness Code Academy.
And I'm Sarah Korjanevsky, registered dietitian, holistic health coach, transformational coach, founder of the Organic Dietitian, and now collaborating partner with Jen at the Wellness Code Academy. And this video is for self-healers and wellness practitioners that are burned out on the standard functional medicine model that often hyper-focuses on running lots of labs, particularly lots of expensive labs, and implementing standard supplement protocols. And you're seeking new and innovative approaches for healing. So be sure to stick with us.
Okay, so you might be thinking, well, geez, Jen and Sarah, what brings you guys to say that most functional lab tests are BS? Well, first and foremost, please know that we are not anti-lab tests. We absolutely use them in our work, in our functional health coaching practices with our clients, albeit, however, much more conservatively and strategically. But when we first started our practices, we went with what we were taught in our functional medicine training program, which was to run the same set of labs on all clients and then meet with them in a session to go over the results and ultimately create quote unquote prescriptive supplement protocols to help them address the findings. All right. And while this may have brought some temporary reprieve to some of our clients, at the end of the day and overall, we soon realized that it just wasn't an effective approach. And in today's video, we're going to reveal to you 10 primary reasons why this is the case and what to consider doing instead.
So number one, the labs that we were initially taught to run on all of our clients really did not reveal what we couldn't already assess by speaking with the person and getting much more information from them. And I don't need a stool test to tell me that someone has a leaky gut. If they are dealing with chronic health issues of any kind, particularly autoimmune, we already know that they're dealing with leaky gut. So we don't need a test to tell us that. Instead, let's save our money and actually work on implementing interventions that are going to help address that.
Absolutely. And it brings us to reason numero dos, is that not all labs are created equal, and different labs use different technology, and therefore you can test a person for something with 3 different labs from 3 different companies and likely see many different results. And in addition to that, many labs just aren't accurate. For instance, we have found food sensitivity and or food intolerance tests to be abysmally inaccurate. For example, you could take a person that is reacting to everything and anything and run a food intolerance or sensitivity panel on them, yet the very foods that they're reacting to, the test could show that they're green or completely safe. Yet every time they eat them, they are brought to their knees with severe intestinal pains, diarrhea, constipation, widespread inflammation. And so, this is just one example, but overall, we just so many times find that what the lab reveals doesn't really match up clinically very well with the person's history and presenting challenges. And like Sarah said in the previous point, Most of the time, we don't need a lab to tell us that somebody is dealing with specific dysfunctions like leaky gut, food intolerances, hormone imbalances, poor energy production, and the list goes on.
The next point is something that we still see happening largely in the functional medicine space is really hyper focusing on treating the lab versus the person that's in front of you. And we should never just treat lab tests alone. We always want to be asking deeper questions and really think much more strategically, and do the results make sense based on the person that you've run the lab on, and bringing clients as part of the co-creation, part of bringing them in to be their own best self healers, and having conversations about them based on labs and if some of those things resonate with them. So we never want to just run a lab and say, here's what the lab shows. Here's the list of standard recommendations in order to quote unquote treat what's popping up on the lab. This can lead us to run in circles of constantly running labs, being put on treatment protocols, and then rerunning the lab. And now we have to add a whole new set of recommendations based on what the new lab have found, and around we tend to go, leading to complete overwhelm in one's healing journey.
100% agree with everything that Sarah just said. And now we're going to dive into reason number 4, which is the question, who's interpreting the lab? You see, not everybody takes the time to get properly trained in reading the fine nuances of lab testing. And this leads to kind of interpreting labs in a black and white fashion. For instance, on the HTMA, which is hair tissue mineral analysis that looks at mineral levels and toxic elements levels. If somebody looks at the HTMA lab result in a black and white lens, and they see low levels of a mineral and high levels of a mineral, well, they would conclude, yep, this mineral is too high and the one that is low is too low. So we need to supplement with the one that is too low and possibly remove some things from the diet or remove any supplements one is taking for the one that is too high. But this is literally a black and white interpretation of it, because many times on an HTMA, a high mineral will mean it's a loss from the cell and we actually need more. And a low mineral means it's probably bio unavailable, or it's the result of low stomach acid, as in the case of cobalt, because the number one cause of low cobalt is low stomach acid. So that's what I mean by kind of looking at the nuances. And another example of that is, stool testing. Many people will run stool tests and it'll show a bunch of dysbiotic gut bugs, and one will conclude, oh, this is why you're sick. Or that same stool test will miss parasites, because parasites are very elusive and can self-destruct on being eliminated from the body. So if parasites don't show up on a stool test, looking at a stool test through a black and white lens, someone would conclude, oh, you don't have parasites. So again, there's many fine lines and nuances to be able to interpret, and not everybody is highly skilled at doing that.
And that is a great segue into reason number 5, in the fact that stool testing is a very popular test these days, and it's kind of becoming more and more popular. More and more people are running them on their clients, saying, hey, you need to do a stool test to help us assess what's going on in the gut so that we can kill the bugs or support, the good bugs. But what we aren't really understanding, not only are these tests some of the more expensive tests to run, costing clients hundreds of dollars, but stool testing is really only testing the stool microbiota. It is not able to properly look at the gut microbiota. So stool testing can only assess what's coming out of the large intestine mostly. So we're not seeing what's happening in the small intestine, which is a huge part of healthy digestion. And this often will lead to missing, parts of the GI tract that need supporting, or it might also mean something popping up on it that now one thinks they need to go off and kill, but really gut health in general and supporting that is not just about bug killing. And it's not necessarily just about supporting the low bacteria. It's about addressing the person as a whole and what created that environment for bacterial imbalances, leaky gut, immune suppressing to happen in the first place.
Yepers. And now, reason number 6 is that most functional labs don't reveal the true root causes, but rather the byproducts of the true root causes. And a prime example of this is a hormone panel. So we run a hormone panel and it reveals low output of cortisol. So then what does someone conclude, or many people conclude? The reason why you feel like such crapola is because your adrenals are crashed. So the adrenals are the culprit. But trust me when I tell you that adrenals are not the culprit. They are a symptom. There are factors going on at a very deep level that have caused the adrenals to, or I should say, not really the adrenals, but the HPA axis to be down regulated, meaning the body has detected threats. All right. So the primary threat is not the low cortisol. That is a byproduct of deeper root cause issues. And we have found that the 3 primary deep root cause issues of chronic health issues and a downregulated HPA axis are, number 1, unresolved emotional wounds and trauma. Number 2, a broken energy system, which has everything to do with chronic cell danger response mode, which is an entire different video in itself. And we do have a video on that if you want to look at our library to find that. And number 3, overall nervous system dysregulation. And then from here, we develop all of these periphery issues, such as quote unquote adrenal fatigue. But it's not the adrenals, it's those bigger issues. And again, labs don't reveal this. So we need to step back and kind of look at the big picture and look at situations through a whole person, whole system lens.
And reason number 7, that most functional labs are BS, especially for someone who's already been dealing with a lot of chronic health issues and maybe for a while, and they've seen many different practitioners and have run many different types of labs, who then see another functional practitioner who, hey, I need to rerun these labs over again in case those initial labs didn't reveal something magical that we didn't find the first time around. So it can really lead to people running labs, not getting effective solutions, seeking out support, and then all that person is doing is running more labs. So if I have a client coming to me that's dealing with chronic gut issues and autoimmunity, and they have already run 1 or 2 stool tests, or already, done hormone tests, already done organic acids tests, things like that, I'm not going to run more, right? Thinking and hoping it's going to, magically reveal something that those others didn't in the first place. So we really want to think about these things when we are working on truly effective solutions, to not have that definition of insanity of keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Amen to that. And reason number 8 is that they often lead to the creation and recommendation of excessive amounts of supplements. I cannot tell you how distressing this was for me when I was running the functional medicine gamut in my own long, hellish odyssey with complex chronic illness. I would go, from one practitioner or clinic to the next, to the next, to the next in search of effective solutions. And all they would do was run a series of often very expensive functional labs and then hand me a prescriptive supplement protocol to implement over the next 8 weeks or 3 months and then check back with them. And many times these supplement protocols were like upwards of 15, 20 bottles of supplements and, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month, which led me to develop what I now call supplement PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, caused from the purchasing and opening and downing of handfuls of supplements that in reality never got me well, because the true deep root causes of my issues were never being adequately addressed. And at the end of the day, folks, there is nothing at all functional or holistic about merely replacing conventional labs and medications with expensive functional labs and slews of supplements. This approach is outdated, it's ineffective, and people are needing more innovative solutions that help them to step into their power, take the reins of their health, and become their own best self-healer. And it doesn't begin with a bottle of supplements. They are tools in the process, but a much smaller part of the process than Sarah and I were both trained to believe they were in our original trainings.
Absolutely. Pill for every ill does not work. So that brings us to point number 9, which, as we've mentioned, these lab tests, for the most part, are very pricey. And unfortunately, many people cannot afford them, especially on top of coaching fees if you're a practitioner. And so it can get really expensive, putting people into massive amounts of debt, which just creates more stress and trauma. And so we really want to work much more strategically and much smarter to actually really help people without breaking the bank.
Absolutely, girlfriend. Absolutely. And reason number 10, the final reason, is that running a lot of labs, in our opinion, tends to be a distraction, a decoy from addressing the true issues. Those 3 issues that I mentioned earlier in the video: unresolved emotional wounds and trauma, broken energy production system, which, remember, I said is all about chronic cell danger response mode, and it's all about mitochondria and nervous system dysregulation. And to work on all these issues, we don't need a lab test. We need to step back and, once again, work with the whole person, work on, healing the gut, putting the time, energy, and financial resources towards healing rather than running more labs to tell us things that are already obvious.
All right, so this brings us to what to do instead. Well, Jen and I can share with you what we now do with clients instead of running a bunch of standard functional labs right out of the gate that typically would cost at least $1,000 or more. So there is one lab test that we do like to start all clients out on because it can give us the most bang for our buck. And it is a very inexpensive lab, but we also need to know how to interpret it and implement it properly with clients. And what is that test? Well, it's a HTMA test, which is also known as the hair tissue mineral analysis test. And it's actually a hair sample that when we test it can reveal minerals, mineral patterns that can give us a lot of deep information. And we can actually use this information along with transformational coaching to assess trauma, look at things from a psychoneuroimmunological standpoint. And we also typically use energy testing in our work with clients to help look at physical, metaphysical, emotional and psychological aspects of the person that we're working with. That helps us to look at the individual's top stressors that are contributing to their health issues. So one may be dealing with dozens of different types of stressors from all different types of areas: an environmental stressor, an emotional stressor, a physical stressor, relationship stressor. So many different stressors. And so we don't want clients to feel that they have to tackle all of those stressors right out of the gate. That's really impossible to do. So by using HTMA in the way that we teach it, and by using energy testing, we can help the client to identify what their top stressors might be that they can start working on slowly over time. And this can also help us coach clients in a deeper way and work with them to co-create initial action steps and then action steps throughout their healing journey. And always starting with the foundations. And foundations are often, again, way more important and a way better use of time than running expensive labs and creating elaborate supplemental protocols, because supplements aren't going to do their job if one is still not sleeping well and their circadian rhythms jacked and their nutrition is creating more stress and inflammation on the body.
100% to everything that Sarah just said. And all as I have to say is that Sarah and I have completely transformed the way we work with clients and the overall success of our coaching businesses by adopting this more truly holistic, whole person, whole system approach that looks at emotional, metaphysical, psychological, environmental, relational, behavioral issues, rather than over-reliance on costly functional lab tests that, once again, don't really tell us anything that isn't already obvious, and therefore helping our clients to save tons of finances that can be dedicated towards the healing journey, rather than running more and more labs and taking more and more supplements. And so if our message resonated with you today and you would like to learn more about this, approach that works through the lens of trauma, psychoneuroimmunology, transformational coaching, and energy testing, we actually provide education on it in 2 of our programs specifically that are available right now. Holistic HTMA Pro, which teaches the interpretation and implementation of the hair tissue mineral analysis through the lens of trauma, psychoneuroimmunology, and transformational coaching. And it goes deep into the realms of everything that you need to know in the how of helping clients become their own best self healers while using the hair tissue mineral analysis as a roadmap. Okay. And then we also have Parasite Cleansing Mastery, which teaches a completely whole person, whole system approach to cleansing chronic parasites that goes way beyond simply running labs and taking supplements. And so if this intrigues you, you can learn more by checking out the links in the video information below. Anyway, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for joining us today. And we look forward to sharing more of our work with you in the future as we continue to create new videos. In the meantime, cheers to your healing, your resilience, and your success.
Thanks for watching.